Welcome to another fabulous show of My Orgasmic Life. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Gaia Morrissette. And today we're going to talk about trauma and trauma healing and healing the wounds of the past. And so that's a little bit of content warning if you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like much fun. No, this is going to be a playful one, but not necessarily a fun show. So just to give you a heads up. I'm Gaia Morrissette, your hostess, and I also am a holistic sexual wellness specialist and a trauma recovery expert. And so this is why what I'm going to share with you is a technique that I've developed to help heal those wounds. So let's start with, everybody take a deep breath. All right, take a deep breath in through your nose, exhale through your mouth. And let's do one more. Breathe in through your nose, exhale and relax. I lied. We're going to do one more. Breathe in through your nose, exhale, and release through your mouth. Now, the reason that I started this with breathing is so that we can get you in the here and now, into the present, so that you can listen to me. There might be some things that I may say that may trigger you. And if you're not sure what a trigger is, it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. I lovingly invite you to, before you end the session or shut the show down, that you stay till the end, okay? Because there is going to be tools that I can help to utilize to help you move out of that place, okay? So really important. Second thing that's really important, that listen to what you need, okay? This is an important show in which you do some self-care in. So if you are getting so triggered that you must end the show, turn it off, then do so. And then it might be a good idea to reach out to me to help support you healing whatever came up for you while we were having this conversation, okay? So, and you can reach me at succulentliving.com. All right, so let's give you some backstory. So I have been working with trauma. First of all, let's start with my own trauma. I've been working with healing my own trauma, my whole life. And over the last, in particular, the last 8 months, I've had a new series of challenges, of new memories, satanic ritual abuse memories come up to the surface. And so I've had to use a lot of my tools in order to survive, to function, to show up in the world, to see my clients, to all of these things. And so this technique that I'm going to talk about is was put to the test, like hardcore test. And see all the laughter that's still coming out of me. So I am your testimonial, okay? I am still standing, I'm still laughing, and I'm still enjoying being alive, okay? So that's what I wanted to share with you. So for the last, I've been working with innerchildren work for, 25 years? Yeah, the last 25 years. And if you're looking at me now and you're like, what did that make you 5? I'm 45. So I just need to put that, because people, have a hard time with the timeline because I look fairly young. So anyways, okay. So for the last 25 years, I have been working not only with my inner child or inner children, but also helping my clients heal. Thousands and thousands of people I have worked with. And so I developed this technique called, wait for it, the flush method. Like flushing a toilet. Right. And the flesh method is about diving in. It's an advanced techniques that I'm going to go into in a second. But the whole premise of the flesh method is that we go into the subconscious. We have a space in which we can have dialogue, interaction. We can have reparenting. We can do, recognitive programming. We can release wounds and heal wounds that we've been carrying not only in this lifetime but from past lifetimes. Like it's incredibly profound what can happen once you get into this technique, this flesh method. And so basically the premise is so everybody who's listening and watching right now are like, well, what is and you don't know what inner child work is. So the concept is that our subconscious brain, so we have a conscious brain, which is everything that we're aware of, and we have a subconscious brain that is everything that we are not aware of, that actually makes most of our decisions. Most of us move from our subconscious controls how we move in the world, how we feel, how we react, how our bodies react, what people we choose, what jobs we're in, whether we're happy or we're not happy, our sex life. Everything is actually, for most of us, is directed by the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind controls all of the things. Right? Consciously, we think that we're in control, but we're not. Right? So our subconscious is. And one of the ways, there's many different ways to get into understanding your subconscious and having awareness in your subconscious and dialoguing with your subconscious. But one of the ways that I have found that has been the most profound and the most healing and the easiest has been through the concept of inner child or inner children. And the premise of that is that each aspect of your subconscious mind has its own avatar that usually shows up as a child. And depending on the level of experiences, trauma, will depend on how many inner children you may have floating around in your subconscious mind. And they're the ones that make all of your decisions. So, when you're standing, here's a great example. You're standing you're going to buy a car, okay? You're going to buy a car, and you're like, okay, so your rational, logical mind is like, here are the things. This is this. On a subconscious level, it's like, I like that one because that one reminds me of this. And people will think I'm popular because I have that one. Or I really like the color of that one. Or all of those emotions, that's your subconscious brain. And it comes very much from a child's perspective. It is created, our aspects of our personalities are typically created from childhood experiences. So when we jump into our subconscious brain to try to navigate that world, the best way to look at it is that you have a bunch of kids running around making all of your life choices. And if you're a parent, you're like, oh dear, would you let your 6-year-old decide how you're going to invest or what car you're going to buy or, what job you're going to have? No, but the truth is that's what we do. And that's why we are so reactive. That's why we tend to be very much in this reactive space, this triggered space. And a trigger, so let me create the framework so we're all on the same page. So what happens is that when something triggers you, meaning that it could be a sight, it can be one of your senses picks up something, it can be an emotional experience, it can be something that reminds you of something that happened in the past. And what happens is that the logical, and for the purpose of this, we're going to call it your adult brain. The logical adult part of your brain is like, I don't really need to run that person off the road who made me spill my coffee. Okay, so the rational part of you, the logic, the adult part of you, does not feel the need to run the person off the road that made you spill your coffee, who cut in front of you. But the subconscious inner child part of you that feels like disrespected and taken advantage of, which reminds you of what happened when you were a little kid and you didn't have your voice. And so that's why you're like, I'm not taking this. And then you lash out because you're triggered, right? So basically, you've been pulled into the past. And your emotional reaction is based on something that happened from your past that hasn't been healed, hasn't been processed, hasn't been moved through. And that's just one example, right? So when we're walking around like that and we have no way of actually dialoguing and finding out what that is, what ends up happening is we have reactions. And either we do fight, flight, or freeze. So we either attack or we'll withdraw or we'll be inactive as self-preservation. But we don't know how to change it, and it feels out of control. So the flush method is all about diving in. First of all, I'm going to stop for everybody who's live with me. Does anybody have a question about anything I've talked about so far? No? Okay. So the flush method is all about going in and creating an inner child sanctuary. All right. And in that sanctuary, it becomes a safe containment space. And that safe containment space, because the premise of not being triggered all the time, and the premise of not being triggered is healing your past wounds and finding safety and feeling safe within you, not externally, but within you. Those are the two main premises of being able to move from a non-reactive place to from a responsive place in the world. So in the sanctuary, the inner child sanctuary that we create, this is the premise of this, is that we create a safe space, a safe containing space. We develop safety. What is safety? How does it feel safe? What can I do to be safe? How can I create that narrative within myself? How do I have the power to create that safety? All right, so that's premise one. Second premise is trust that ends up happening. So often our subconscious mind has been screaming and yelling at us for years, and we have suppressed it, ignored it, fucked it away, ate it away, suppression of these things, worked it away, drank it away, smoked it away. We've done all these things to ignore our subconscious mind. So our subconscious has been screaming at us for a really long time. So what ends up happening often is that when we start to connect with our subconscious mind is pissed, doesn't trust us, thinks that we're an asshole. So the next, part of that, we create safety. Now we got to do some trust building and creating this wonderful space of creating safety and trust. So that's like the next component of how we, what we do in the flush method. All right. Then once we have trust and we have safety, now we got to figure out, how do we dialogue? How does your subconscious show up for you? What does it look like? What does it sound like? How old is it? How do we have dialogue, and creating this dialogue back and forth between your conscious brain and your subconscious brain? So basically the adult you and your inner you, or inner yous, depending on how many kids you got. Right? And in this dialogue back and forth, you start to understand, first of all, your subconscious now has a direct line to you. And so it can start to tell you what it is that it wants, what it is it needs, what is it emotionally, what's going on, where are the old wounds, what wounds need to be healed, what are the things that you're carrying, all of these pieces, the pieces of the puzzle that make it so that you can live the best version of your life and that you feel like you are in control. I put in quotations, that you feel like you have a semblance of making choices to not be in this constant state of reaction triggered space. So we got safety, we got trust, we got dialogue. Communication is always a good thing. Communication with ourselves. This is how we understand who we are and what we are and where we need to go. And then the fourth part of this is the space becomes how you let go of the past. How do you keep the knowledge of the experiences that make up who we are, but we don't have to hold on to the emotional charge and the emotional reaction to those experiences? And how are we, and to making sure that we're no longer in the trauma loop where our subconscious mind is playing out. It's like stuck in this loop and it's playing it out over and over and over again in the back of your existence. So you're always in this place of reacting from a place of trauma. So, and a wounded space, right? So that's the next part of the flush method, is all about developing how do we release, how do we keep our knowledge and release the emotional charge. And then the last step, the last pieces of this is the reprogramming, I like to call it the reparenting space, where we get to that part of us, that inner child gets to go and be a child and not hold this story, this trauma, this experience, this wound. It gets to just go and be a kid and to play and to frolic and to laugh and to celebrate and to find the wonderment in life and to, bring your skill sets, whatever skill sets, the survival skill sets, take those skill sets and like fine tune those skill sets so that they work with you instead of against you. And, all these beautiful things can happen. And that's like the advanced space, right? Where we start diving into how do we shift those and change those pieces. So that in a nutshell is the flush method, right? Of how you advanced inner child work. And it's funny, I created it and I've been working with it for, like I said, the last 20 years. And, the last 8 months, these tools have saved me, like literally, and I'm not shitting you, right? Saved me, saved my sanity, allowed my ability to function in the world. I had I'm not saying this so that you're like, ooh, poor Gaia. I'm telling you this because of how important and how much this works. I had over 100 new horrendous memories surface over the last 8 months. And in those memories, there were the worst possible things that that a human being could ever imagine experiencing. And yet, I'm laughing and I'm celebrating life. And I'm on the other side of it because I've done all of the healing part of it. But I am alive and I'm so happy to be alive. And the reason is because I use this tool every day, sometimes throughout the day. I was using this tool and navigating through this world. And I've seen how powerful it is with my clients. I work with my clients and it's a game changer. Once they can start to have dialogue and start moving into those places with their inner child or inner children, it changes everything for them. So if you're like, this is really kind of fascinating and I really want to dive into this. So you need somebody to help you create the space. So, this is a really important piece, is that once you need somebody to come help you create develop it, to guide you through all the moving pieces, all the places, how to do it, all of this kind of stuff. Once you have it set up, you don't need anybody anymore. You can do all of your own work. You don't need to continue to go to therapy all the time. You don't need to see your coach on a regular basis. Like, you have this amazing tool that can help you navigate through pretty much everything in life. And so that's why I love this tool, is because it's like, once it's set up, it's like, it's your operating system. Like, it becomes your operating system. It's your new way of moving in the world. It's like understanding the inner workings of your brain. And once you get that, then it's a game changer. Because when you don't understand, and most of us don't have a way to connect with our subconscious mind, when you don't understand your subconscious mind, you can't communicate with your subconscious mind. It's basically doing all of these things that you have no idea why you do what you do. Why do you respond the way that you respond? Why is your life such a giant clusterfuck all the time? Why is there always crisis and chaos? Why? There's a lot of the why. And once you learn, whether it's this technique or some other technique, because there's many of them out there, once you learn and have a technique that allows you to connect to your subconscious brain and dialogue with your subconscious brain and navigate your subconscious world, that makes the world of difference. You now can embrace the life, create the life, develop the life, heal the pieces that don't serve you, let go of, the old patterns that no longer work for you. You can do all of that stuff because you know what it is. You know where it's coming from. That it was like, oh, that teacher once said that thing. And now every time somebody tries to hand me money, here's just a great example. Every time somebody tries to hand me money, I feel shame because that teacher said that one thing about that thing that one time. But yet, so now you can't receive money from people because there's a consequence to receiving money from these people, but you have no idea that that's what it is. And all of those little simple experiences, little simple moments, is what makes up who we are and how we move. Also, our subconscious brain also not only controls our decisions, it controls our bodies. Like, here's a really, a funny but not so funny experience. So my subconscious, my inner workings, my inner kids, all right? So some of my inner kids were like not really happy with me about doing a talk and sharing some stuff that was very vulnerable for me to share. And they were not on board with that. And, I didn't do my due diligence of like negotiation, talking, figuring it out, what needs to happen, blah, 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 blah. So I was just did it anyways. And so as a direct reaction to me ignoring my subconscious brain, I got a yeast infection. And I know it was specifically because I ignored what my subconscious was trying to tell me. Because when I finally went in and found out what was going on, they bragged about it. They're like, yeah, we totally gave you a yeast infection. That'll teach you. You should listen to us more often. And as soon as I listened, this is how powerful, okay? As soon as I listened to them and we course corrected whatever it was that I needed to course correct, my yeast infection was gone like that. Headaches, nausea, ribs going out, random pain in your body, all of these things, our subconscious brain often sets those things, those motions, those things in play. So, all right. So this was a longer one. I hope you were inspired. I hope you're excited. I hope you're like, oh my God, I want some of that. Give me the flesh method. Oh, I need to tell you why I called it the flesh method. And then we'll end the show today. So I was coming up with all these, really fancy names around, all cognitive, academic, all this stuff. And of course, my subconscious brain, my inner kids were like, that's no fun. No, denied. And so in being able to dialogue with your subconscious, I basically went in and I was like, hey, okay, well, what do you want to call it? They're like, let's call it the toilet method. I'm like, well, we can't call it toilet method. That's ridiculous. And they're like, yeah. And advanced inner child work is fun and playful and easy and ridiculous. And we use our imaginations and we can throw things in fires and we can flush things down toilets. We can blow them up. We have all this stuff that we can do in the inner sanctuary of our subconscious brain, right? Our subconscious brain loves the impossible, and we can make the impossible possible in our subconscious. So I was like, okay. They're like, well, we flush it, because that's the advanced part of it, is that we take what it is that no longer serves us and we release it. We let go of it, whether it's in a fire, volcano, blowing it up, flushing it down a toilet. It's all about releasing and letting go, and so that we make room for the reparenting space. And calling in what it is that we want and how we want to move and what it is who we want to become. So that's why we call it the flush method, because you're flushing your shit. Literally, you flush your shit down the toilet. You flush your stuff that no longer serves you down the toilet. We get rid of it. We release it. We heal it. We let it go and we heal it and we reframe it so that it doesn't control you anymore. So that's why it's called the flush method. Because we flush it. Get rid of that shit, literally and figuratively. So if you're like, okay, I want to explore this, then reach out to me at succulentliving.com. And we can, get you all set up on, start that process of that trauma healing and, getting your inner child sanctuary set up and, getting you being able to dialogue and creating trust and safety within yourself and all the beautiful things. All right. So you can reach out to me at succulentliving.com. All right. So thank you. And I hope this is inspiring, that we don't have to move. We don't have to move from the place of woundedness anymore. We don't have to move from the place of reactiveness anymore. You don't. And it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how bad your trauma is. The other thing is that's really important, this is one thing I didn't talk about, is that with doing it this way, you don't necessarily have to relive. A lot of times why we suppress and we don't want to go and look at our stuff is because we feel like we're going to have to relive the experience. And then we're going to be stuck in it because we survived it once. Why would we ever live again? And the best way to survive it is to forget it and to not remember it even existed. And so the last thing we want to do is to look at those places, because those places are horrendous and they're awful, and we will break. We feel like we will break if we have to look at that again. If we ever have to acknowledge that even happened to us, that will make us break. But the thing I love about the flush method and the advanced inner child work is that we don't necessarily have to relive it. And if we we don't need to relive it, but if we do have to know what the knowledge is, that we have to have conscious awareness of what the knowledge is, then we can do it in a way that gets in, get out, don't mess my hairdo. We can do it in a way where there's techniques that are set into place, into motion about, okay, you show me what it is, now I can release it and let go of it, and I don't have to hold on to it, I don't have to be stuck in it, I don't have to be in the trauma loop. And because the truth is even when you are in not acknowledging that it exists, it still exists. It's still playing out in the background of your existence. Whether you're consciously aware of it or not, you're still stuck in that trauma loop. No matter how many ways that you have suppressed it, no matter how many ways that you've tried to distract yourself from it, it's still happening. So learning how to go in, see it for what it is, letting it go and releasing it, giving space for reparenting of that wound, that wounded child within you, reparenting that wounded child, then it's not playing in the background anymore. You're not moving from this place of always having this open, gaping, pussy wound. There's a scar. There may still be a scar, but that scar is just a reminder of the experience and the knowledge that was gained from that experience, not being stuck in the trauma of it, not being stuck in the emotional reactiveness in it, not being stuck in it anymore, no longer being in the trauma loop. And why we spend so much time in this trauma loop is because your subconscious is holding on to that experience to try to keep you safe, trying to make sure that that you can recognize when there's a predator when you meet them, and you know, it's trying to heal it by going through it over and over and over again. So this technique, working on this advanced inner child work, what this does is it interrupts all of those things and allows you a way to navigate in a new way and to reclaim your power, take back your power, and no longer be powerless anymore. So I love you with deep, deep love from my heart. Thank you for being and listening, and I hope this has inspired you. And if you need support and you want to lean in here, you can come find me at succulentliving.com. You can also reach out to me on my social media platforms under Gaia Morrissette. And don't forget to continue watching and listening to my Orgasmic Life podcast, which can be found on all the places, Spotify, Google, Apple. And I also have my own app. My Orgasmic Life has its own app, so you can have me with you always. So you can never be without me. Because who doesn't want more of me and my laughter? I know today was a heavier show, but you know, there's, you know, in the heaviness, there's also lightness. So, you know, it's all about balance. And don't forget, if you're like, ooh, I want to have some more engagement, more interaction with Gaia, I've created Patreon, so you can do that now. You can, you know, engage with me in a new way. So the links will be in the show notes, so that you can just easy peasy, just click the button, click the link. And I think that's it. That's all. That's all. I love you all. You're incredible. I hope that you move from a place of conscious awareness today and feel from a place of responsive into responding to the way you want to respond, not to how you are reactive. Go forth, find joy, and heal those wounds. Bye-bye.